All right, I just got the notification that we have gone live. So that being said, hello, every pony. I hope you are enjoying your BABSConline experience, or should I say BABSConline? I think is how they're tagging it. Um, Welcome to Ponies and You, How My Little Pony Affects Our Lives. This is a panel. I'll tell you a little bit about the panel before we get into it here. A few years ago, a friend of mine from the Philadelphia area, Ginger Crisp, came to me and said, "Hey, I had this idea. What if we did a panel about how My Little Pony affects our lives?" And we developed this, and this has turned into one of my favorite panels to do at various conventions. So I always love to give him a shout out because he sparked this idea originally. Um, One of the things that we've noticed really is just how life changing this series and this fandom has been. And it's something I know I can speak to, and so many people that I know. So, that being said, I'd like to introduce the two of us if you don't know us already. My name's Forward Progress. I'm the founder of the Keeping Friendship Magic project. I've done a lot of other various things throughout the fandom. You may have seen me figuring out how to make Mad Libs work last night, doing crazy Jackbox stuff, or reading very interesting fan fiction about an hour ago. I'm joined here by the lovely and talented Nova Rose.
Hello.
We're both going to share a little bit with you about our stories here. And we're going to share some stuff some information from around the fandom too. About a month and a half ago, I want to say it was now, I put out a call on social media to collect stories from the fandom. And towards the end of this panel, we're going to be talking about some of those stories and how much this fandom has meant not only to the two of us, but also to all of you. So we're going to start with our stories here, of course. So there's me, there's my horse. Shout out to Apple Needle, who is a wonderful artist who did this and is a sweet person. Go commission her, she's wonderful. But I wasn't always this guy going around doing panels at conventions talking about social science. That has not always been me. It took me a while to get to this place that I'm at now. So let's dial this back and tell the story kind of in sequential order, we'll say. We're gonna dial this back. See that little nerdy kid there? Like, see if I can do this with the mouse. Right here in the front in the white shirt there. That was me in high school, everyone.
So cute.
Look at that, dialing back. That's from the 90s. You can tell by the little cartons there and the designs on them. But I was this really nerdy kid who didn't really um, fit in anywhere. I had my group of friends that was very small, and the rest, we were kind of those kids that didn't really fit in with anybody else. So we just kind of hung out. But up until that point, even high school, like I only had a couple of friends, but even still, like it was difficult navigating friendship for me. Um, when I was a kid, I was bullied a lot. I was still bullied a lot in high school, and I had people who were in my life that were that were friends, but not really friends. We'll say they were a lot of people that would um, kind of use me. I would say I've noticed this not just in myself and with others, having conversations over time that there are people who will latch on to other people and use them as their punching bag. And that was me. And I was so desperate for human contact and friendship that I just hung on. Like one kid that I thought I was friends with when we were young, like in elementary school and stuff. You know, at the same token, when there was like campouts and stuff, I was the kid everybody picked on because I was all nervous and awkward. I was the one everybody wanted to pull pranks on, and then went from that same kid when we were in high school was would walk down and call me the F word and push me into a locker. And then there was another kid who just would sit next to me and intentionally bully me on the bus every morning. And it was very hard for me to make a lot of lasting friendships and to trust people for a long time. And, but I've always been an optimist, and I always tried to look for the best in people, but it was hard for a long time to really make lasting friendships. So needless to say, that's kind of the setup of me as a youngster. So we're going to fast forward this story to 2012, 2013-ish, and how I discovered a little show called My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic. So I think I discovered the show and the phenomenon and the fandom in the same way that many people did, and that was at Hot Topic. Y'all remember these displays, right? Remember when Pony was all over Hot Topic and in the men's section of Hot Topic? And that was a thing that just so, 2012, 2013, Jer, before I was Forward Progress, didn't know what to make of this. I thought it was so weird, and I was like, what is this? What is up with these guys? Like, what's the deal? What is all these guys like in the kids show? I'm actually laughing to myself right now because one of the shirts in this image Nova Rose owns and wore about a week ago. So
I actually have 3 of them.
Oh, memories. But at the time, I was very ignorant, and I didn't know anything, and I really blocked it off because I was like, what the heck is this? This is weird. I don't understand this. I don't get what's going on. And it was basically this thing where I had this opinion driven into me where it was like a bunch of weird straight guys who like this kids show for little girls. And I was like, okay, that's so weird. But then, I got into the fandom in an interesting way. Beyond that, and that's where my first introduction was. But then there was a YouTuber that I followed, and he had did some videos. Those of you who like abridged parodies of things, there's definitely a bunch of popular ones online. There's some Pokemon ones. Noacking, I know, has been in a lot of online abridged series. This was a Zelda abridged series, just a little fledgling Zelda abridged series I caught on to. And actually, I have a little clip from it to give you a sense of what me in 2013 was watching back then that got me into the fandom in a weird way. So I'll explain here in a second.
Working as a team, Navi would offer Link useful advice in times of hardship, thus forming the foundation for their future friendship.
Hey, Link, look at that, right there. See that, huh? See it, right there, huh? Look. Hey, look, listen, hey, look, listen, hey, look, listen.
What?
It's a door.
What about the door?
Want to know how to open it?
I know how to open a door!
Anybody who played Ocarina of Time gets that. I'll shout out who this person is. They go by Xana Uzumaki on YouTube. They made several Zelda abridged series and other fun things. Definite content warning. Some of the series gets a little adult and dark, as my girl can own up to, because I've introduced her to these. So how did this get me into My Little Pony, you ask? Well, turns out said YouTuber was also a brony. And I was like, okay, well, this guy seems cool, and I share a sense of humor with this guy. And then there was a time he uploaded a Q&A video where he actually did like series of 2 or 3 where like he would answer Q&A about the series he was doing, and then he did a series where he answered just Q&A about brony questions. And I watched that one, and I was surprised to see that, all of this just like outpouring about the different characters. And the thing that really got me was that's when I learned that the person who created Friendship is Magic was Lauren Faust. And I think that was the final thing that went, there's got to be something to this, because I was a huge fan of Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. Love that show. I will still watch it. It's on Hulu, so I can watch it whenever I want. It's wonderful. Um, and so I knew of her from that, and her husband, Craig McCracken. Let's talk about an animation powerhouse couple, right? I mean, whew. Between them, we have Foster's, we have My Little Pony, Powerpuff Girls. Was it Wonder Over Yonder? Is that what the... Yep. Now we have DC Superhero Girls, which if you haven't seen, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, and it has a lot of the writers from Friendship is Magic on it, too. So, needless to say, that was the thing that pushed me over. So I'm like, there are these guys that I see online, and they're also bronies, and they're still chill and cool guys. And there's somebody who I know from the industry and respect that made really cool shows. So I was like, I gotta watch this thing, I guess, and test it out, check it out, see what the fuss is all about. So I watched my first episode, and my very first episode was Over a Barrel. Which it's funny to look back at that fact now, because now I don't know why I chose this image for this slide, because Brayburn looks so ridiculous. I just love the Appaloosa.
Little Twilight in the corner there.
Twilight's got the best. Hey, internet, can you meme this for me? Anyway, just take all of this and meme it, and just tweet me at KeepFriendMagic. No, anyway, we'll have a caption contest. Anyway, let's get back on the story. So I watched it, and I was pretty impressed. I was like, there's a story here. There's all kinds of different characters. The writing seems solid. I like where this is going. So I decided, okay, it was decent. I'll watch another. And then I watched another. And then I watched another. And another. And before too long, this was me. That's at a Hot Topic, ironically enough. I was in a Hot Topic. I actually bought, there was a version of this that was derpy that I bought, and I wore to my very first pony convention way back when. But I just was like, this is good. And I was like, I bought into the show. And I was a fan. And then I was like, okay, I'm a fan of the show, but I still felt really comfortable calling myself a brony, because in my head, there was this kind of like negative term. The way I always heard it was this negative connotation of like, like these kind of like loser guys. And the other thing too, and I don't know what it is, but in my head, I was like, it was this thing about that they were all straight. And this is a good lesson that I've had to take to heart over the years. And it's very funny because if you tune into my next panel, which is going to be at 10 Eastern, 5 Central, I'm actually going to speak to this topic about owning up to the fact that you're wrong and you're not always perfect. And the fact that you can say, if you can say I was wrong and that's okay, that's one of the most powerful things any individual can do. You're not always going to be right. Admitting when you were wrong about something is so amazingly powerful, and it gives you the ability to overcome so much and move past just the basics. So needless to say, that was something that stuck with me, though. It was like, I was like, that's all these bunch of weird straight guys for a little bit. And then one day, I was flipping through the channels. This was back when I still had cable. That feels like back in the day at this point. There was this little documentary that just happened to come on one of the cable channels. And I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with it. Bronies, the extremely unexpected adult fans of My Little Pony. This was the one with John Delancey, essentially, producing and hosting throughout. Had Tara Strong in it. A number of people from it. And you can say what you will. I've heard people over the years say, they think it's a little preachy or it's a little just showboaty or whatever. But say what you will about it. I watched this documentary and I was blown away seeing the different facets of this fandom in this little, whatever it was, an hour and a half film. seeing, not only at that point had I realized, oh my god, John Delancey's in this, and I was always a huge Star Trek nerd, so that really helped a lot. It's like, because let's face it, Discord is Q is Discord. End of story. I still have to show her Star Trek: The Next Generation. Just he's in the first episode. Does that make you want to watch it?
Sure.
Okay, good. It's on record. It's on YouTube now, honey. My plan has worked to perfection. No, anyway, but I saw this, and I saw all different kinds of people, men, women, young, old, all races, all genders, all ethnicities. I saw this diversity of people who came together over this idea of the show, and the idea that friendship is magic, and a community based around love and tolerance. And I saw that there were musicians and artists and performers and presenters, and this was not just, hey, we like a cartoon. This went beyond that. And I think one of the other things that stuck with me hardcore from it was the charity. Seeing how much charity was an inherent part of this fandom. And seeing, I'm actually kind of tearing up already, and I haven't even gotten to the sad part. So I went, I went in my head, and I'm like, the heck with my preconceived notions. They were so stupid. And from that day on, I was proud to call myself a brony. And I still am to this day. Now, while I say I was proud to call myself a brony, I was proud to call myself a brony in my own head. I still had to deal with coming out of the stable, so to speak. And figuring out how to tell people, because it was so weird. And I really wish I had worn the shirt, and I'm not going to send you to find it. I finally, I got the cojones to buy my first pony shirt. And I don't know if you'll remember it. It's an older one that has paint splatters, but it makes out the silhouette of Rainbow Dash. And, well, you've seen me wear it. That's not fair to them. But you might remember it. I bought that one at first because it was one of those ones where it wasn't obvious that it was a My Little Pony shirt. But it still made me feel good inside. And I had to tell my boyfriend at the time eventually, which was awkward. And I gotta tell you, as somebody who's had to come out as various things at different points in their lives, I've had to come out as gay. I had to come out to telling people I was HIV positive. I had to come out, as a polyamorous individual. I've had to come out in various ways. And it's weird because, you would think all of that would have made this easier, and yet coming out as a brony was actually it was difficult. I didn't know how to tell people, and I think a lot of it was because I had preconceived notions that I had to overcome. So that was very interesting, and it was it was difficult. But eventually I started telling people, and I'm like, all right, I'm a brony. I'm okay saying this. I've told a couple people. Holy crap, I must be the only brony around me. I don't know any other bronies. Where do I find them? What the heck? So, obviously, one of the things about that documentary was it took place largely at BronyCon. And one day, I just, after watching that and going through, just a little period there, I was like, okay, why don't I just Google this? And I live in Pennsylvania, and I found out that BronyCon was happening in Baltimore, which is an hour and a half from me. And I'm like, I could do this. So I just went by myself. This was 2014 BronyCon. I bought a ticket, bought a cheap little dinky hotel room about 6 miles away from the outside of the city. I took the light rail in, and I just said, to hell with it. I don't know who I'm gonna meet there. I don't know anybody in this fandom. I don't know what I'm going to expect, but I just was like, I got to do this. And I went by myself, and it literally changed my life forever. These are a couple, this slide here, I have a couple of pictures up from it. That was my very first Brony Palooza in the crowd, which just being around so many people hype about pony music and the diversity within it of electronic and dance and hip hop and rock, and it just, it overwhelmed me. And the other thing too was, if you don't know, in the picture, it's at least on my left, I don't know if it's on your left or your right there. I look terrible in that picture. That shirt does not fit me very well in that picture. Oh, hey, look, there's the derpy backpack I mentioned earlier. My hair is horrible in that, but I put this picture in here for a reason. That's Michael Morones and his mom, his family there. And if you don't know, Michael Morones was a kid who was bullied for being a fan of the show and actually attempted suicide. I believe it was the age of 11. And luckily he was found and they saved his life, but it did amazing, just all kinds of damage to his system and everything. And I got to meet him and his family, and that affected me so much, getting to see this outpouring of love. It was funny because in that room that day was the first time I met Dusty Cat as well, just randomly. But I was in this room with all these people that were there to meet this kid and show love and support, where other people turned hatred against him and a blind eye to what he was going through. And he was there, and I don't know if any of you remember a kid named Grayson, who was bullied for bringing his Rainbow Dash backpack to school, and actually the school told him not to bring it anymore because they felt he was the one causing the distraction. I got to meet him and his mother too, and that kid, I can't believe that kid got bullied. I've not gotten to meet or talk to them since the 2014 BronyCon, but getting to interact with him and his mom. First of all, his mom was like one of the strongest women, I think. The thing that she had to deal with, like, and just fighting against her kid getting bullied, she was getting death threats, and she had to deal with this, and still was able to overcome it and bring her son to this convention and have all this love. And her kid Grayson was going around and just talking to everybody and had this bright smile on his face and was the most chatty, presentable. Like, he should be a politician one day. If anybody knows him or gets out, like, this kid is going to be something someday. So I went to my first Brony convention and I left it and I was like, oh my gosh, like, I met the most amazing people. I was a gopher at my first BronyCon, where I got to do some stuff behind the scenes, and I was so nervous. You know, I really didn't have that many friends. I didn't feel anybody understood who I was and what I was going through at the time, and I just happened to like horses. And I walk into this gopher hole because I was pretty broke at the time, and if they were going to offer me money back for my ticket, why not? And I walked into the room for that, and these people I never met just welcomed me with open arms and wanted to play card games with me and involve me in stuff. And this is where I get teary-eyed. It was like that last day. I remember I went out after the last day of BronyCon that year. You know, I went by myself. I didn't know anybody. And all of a sudden, I'm at dinner outside of the convention with like a dozen people I had never met before that weekend. And I'm giving hugs to guys from like Alabama who I never would have met or even thought of interacting with before. And it hit me so hard and it hit me so much. And I left that weekend and I went, there are bronies out there. My people are out there and I need to find them. And I went home. I did a little Google searching and, well, I found my people, everyone. I found a little brony group in the area that I joined up with, and I met so many friends that I still have to this day through that. I actually grew to be an admin of that group for a couple of years, and it just, everything changed. It gave me a new outlook in life, a purpose, a belief in a community, and that friendship and love and tolerance really can do it. And people really want to be genuine friends. And the best friends that I have right now in the world, I met through this fandom. And I wouldn't trade them for anything. And going through all these experiences was about the same time I decided to go back to college. And so I did that, and I discovered my passion for social science at the same time as all of this was going on, discovering the fandom. And I had to do something after meeting these people who were bullied, after experiencing so much love in this community. I felt like I had to do something. So I started what we now know as the Keeping Friendship Magic Project. Because I also saw there were little infighting things in the fandom. Let's face it. I went to my first convention and there was so much love and support. And then I went on the internet.
That's your first mistake.
I went on the internet and I saw infighting in groups and such. But it was interesting because I had experiences where when I just would talk to somebody, like somebody would say something and it was a little offensive, but then I would just actually end up talking to them and talking and rephrasing things and talking about how that impacted other people, and they could resolve their conflicts. And I'm like, through the power of social science and the values of My Little Pony, we have something here. We can come together. So I started Keeping Friendship Magic in 2015. It's still going strong to this day. I'm presenting a Keeping Friendship Magic project, one of, I think, our fan favorites. We're Not Flawless, in about an hour and a half from now, in this very stage. This fandom, this community has changed my life so much, and it gives me a reason to keep going. There's a reason why I'm still pushing through all of this chaos, through this weird, crazy world we live in. There's a reason I'm doing online streaming. There's a reason I'm doing these panels. It's because I believe in the power of this fandom. I believe in the power of bronyism, as I call it. I believe in all of you out there. We can get through all of this together if we just believe, because I've seen it happen. So I've been rambling for about 27 minutes. So I'm going to turn to my beautiful co-host here. This is Miss Nova Rose, everybody.
Hello.
Yay! Share some love. So if you want to talk a little bit about what happened with you and getting into the fandom.
Sure, I got into the fandom pretty much near the beginning, 2000 or about summer 2011. I think it was the hiatus between season 1 and season 2. I just remember I used to watch a lot of YouTube poops back in the day. And I just noticed that a lot of the people I used to follow started using just Pony like as a source, and it just started spreading everywhere. And I remember one day my brother actually decided to take upon himself to actually go and watch from start to finish of season 1, and he just came to me one day and just being like, you know that show? It's actually good. And I'm just like, what are you talking about, you strange man?
I mean, your brother is strange, but...
He is. But anyway. So we went and we pretty much binged, and it was just like Mr. Forward here said, it was like, you just start and then you just, I seen them all already, okay. And I still remember to this day, for the season 2 premiere than just the GAC. So much GAC.
So much GAC. I remember the GAC.
Back in the good old hub. And I remember it was kind of the same thing of like, I started seeing like Hot Topic start carrying stuff, and eventually I know Equestria Daily had their meetup map. And I saw that there was a meetup group not too far from me, and they were having a meetup that I found out later that I'm like, okay, I'm going to go outside of my comfort zone because I'm a very introverted person. So I'm going to go outside of my comfort zone and go to this meetup that just so happened to be in the middle of nowhere. And I was staying overnight with a bunch of people that I'd never met before. And I was freaked out. And I think the entire time I pretty much did not speak a word. But I actually did have a blast. And I remember I was talking to one of the creators of the group thinking that I had a horrible time. I'm just like, oh no, I actually had a great time. Just really bad with people. Which I will say, that's one thing that the fandom is good at, is taking you outside of your shell. And like, especially like me, I wasn't very good socially, so the fandom really helped create more social experiences and more healthy relationships.
So said group that she discovered is the same group I discovered.
Which I still can't believe that when you first joined the group that I was just like, oh, that's gonna be my future husband.
So we met through there, and we were literally just friends, and there was no attraction. It's weird. Like, this was just somebody I trusted fully, and we knew each other for a couple of years actually through this group, and just friends and hanging out. And eventually something just clicked. You went through a very rough time, and we only have so much time for this panel, so we're not going to get too into it. She went through a really tough situation, and at the time, I'm like, something clicked in me where I'm like, I could lose this person forever, and they really do mean something to me. And it was like, if I'm ever going to be with this person, I should do something. So, not in a creepy stalker way or anything, but we hung out, and we actually talked. I talked about my feelings, and you shot me down.
Multiple times.
Yes! And I took it, because I was like, that's okay. But somehow we kept getting closer and closer. And then we were at a convention in Lancaster called ZenkaiCon, and there was a gentleman there who was doing game shows that weekend, and one of the game show concepts, in order to compete, you had to be a couple. And we'd been getting closer and closer and started flirting with each other at that point. And it was weird because we never said anything, but we kind of looked at each other at that convention and went, are we a couple? And I don't think we got to compete, but that's what we call our anniversary now, is that moment, that day. And we never would have met if it weren't for this fandom. And I don't think we would have persevered through all of what we have without this community and this fandom and the values that we've gotten from the show and from this community. Because, I mean, I assume we've talked about this before. You're okay talking with... So about a month and a half into us being like, okay, we're together, we're in the car one night. I was dropping you off at home, and you had something to tell me. And I'm a very open-minded person, and I'm very much like, if you haven't guessed anyway, very accepting, and I'm very much like, I want to support everybody and everything. And you looked at me and you were like, I need to tell you something. I think us being together and everything we've gone through has made me realize something about myself. And you were like, I really think I'm a woman. And I was like, well, that's great. I'm so happy you could tell me this, and this is wonderful. And, I have a bunch of other transgender friends, and I love that you were able. And then it was you looked at me and said those words, will you stay? And I had to stop myself, and I had to really think about it, because not for nothing, but I'm super gay. I mean, I've never had an attraction to women, so I had to stop, and I thought for a solid minute or two, and I said, and these are the real words I said, and I know it sounds so cheesy, but it's true, and it's really what I said. I said, I didn't fall in love with your genitals. I fell in love with you, and it's worth making it work. So that was back in 2017. And I was like, let's give this a shot. And then all of a sudden, I had somebody to cosplay with.
Yay.
There's us as Libon and your beautiful Scottish Pokemon trainer, which you got to do again in my shiny Umbreon. And I also had somebody to do panels with now. This is us running a game show at TrotCon, I want to say 2 years ago, maybe 3.
Which, as an aside, until, I started dating you, I'm horrible at public speaking. So, being with this one has definitely helped with my, coming out as far as being able to publicly speak.
We've done several panels together now. Pony, Pokemon. If y'all want to see our Pokemon panels, they're wonderful. I can't wait to do more. Except I forgot to record the last one we did. So if you want to see it, request it. We do some things on our, what we call our smooth stream sometimes. Anyway, I'm going to get away from shameless plugs. We have a lot more to get through. So after a while, realizing how much this fandom meant to us and everything that brought us together and kept us together, last year at TrotCon, I proposed on stage at opening ceremonies and shocked the hell out of this one. You didn't see it coming.
To quote, why do you do this to me?
I called her up on stage, and that's what she's like, why did you do this to me? Because she had no idea what was going to happen. And I still love, too, the gentleman from the Traveling Pony Museum was so, almost nobody knew this was coming except for, 3 people on con staff and our friends from Riff Ponies. That was, the only people who knew, and the people who were filming it for me. And that was it. Those were the only people who knew. And, yeah. There's the ring. We're getting married. So I found my future wife through My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. And if there's ever a thing that says that the fandom changed my life, I think that's pretty up there. So, we've got a few more things we want to get through, and I want to get to my favorite part coming up. So, unless you have more you want to add in your...
Oh, the part that you took about me isn't your favorite part.
Well, it is, but I love... Can you tell? We already act like a married couple, don't we? So, I'm going to talk about how this happens and how we come together. And I'm going to talk about science, because I love science so much. So, as I said, I went to college for sociology specifically and social science in general, and it's just a passion of mine, and I believe in it, and I love it, and it explains how we work. So for one of my final classes in college, I got to do a study of my own choosing. God, it's like riffing Rainbow all over again. Of my own choosing, and I said, can I study my friends? And I did a study, a study on the workings of a brony group and what brings them together, and the themes about what makes this fandom click and brings us together and unites us. So the first thing I want to talk about is the sense of identity, is that My Little Pony has helped people find out more about who they are as an individual. People will associate with specific characters. There's a reason it works with the main 6 kind of being various archetypes. Because people are able to find things in each of them. Like one character they may really associate with, but there's things about the different characters that they really associate with. And the crazy thing too is like even that can change, is the who's your favorite pony and what it says about you. For me, my favorite pony in the beginning was Rainbow Dash, and then that all changed in season. We found out that Bon Bon was actually Special Agent Sweetie Drops, and I think I might be the only person I know who says Bon Bon is best pony. But there's another one of you. Please reach out to me. I'm so alone. Okay, not really, but I hurt you all. The other thing is through social, figure out who we are, coming together and finding people you wouldn't have found otherwise. It creates that feeling of a social identity, of a place we belong through this shared love of this fandom, of this series, creating a hub for people to come together. And then it's what keeps this strong and why this is important. Why, people have freaked out about the show ending, about BronyCon having its final year last year. There's so many people watching this, I'm sure, right now. We are doing online conventions with thousands of attendees. This fandom is still here and still going strong. And there's a reason for it, and this is it. We are finding ourselves and staying strong through it. And we're getting a sense of social cohesion with it. And the biggest thing that I can say here through it, it's that the elements of harmony is what keeps this fandom together. And that's the biggest thing I found in that study. When I would talk to people, I interviewed people, I would do observational studies at meetups and such. And if there's one thing I noticed, it was a belief in the facets of the elements of harmony that keeps us together and really keeps us strong. And it's what brings us together. It creates a common bond. And we've kind of turned it on our fandom to this concept of love and tolerate. And that we're going to love and tolerate you to death. Because why not? But it's great. And I wouldn't have it any other way. There is a cohesion to this group of people. And we have our infighting, we have our moments. But if we truly believe in this, it keeps us strong and keeps us going. And it has for almost a decade since the premiere of this show. For years of us attending conventions, interacting online, meeting up, finding our love. It's what happens. So when we first did the first iteration of this, we reached out to try and get some testimonials from people that we knew, and we got some. And we reached out, and this is essentially what happened. So I'm gonna briefly go over a few bits from these here, and then I'm gonna get into some wonderful things here. So some testimonials we got back. This is from Cyril the Wolf, you might know, is a great fandom musician. Said about how My Little Pony made him feel more in touch with his emotions a little bit. We had somebody who said they're able to find little random things to be happy about in the world now. This is a person who told us that they met some great friends and their amazing husband through My Little Pony. And this is one, too, that I love. They said that it reminded them of the values they were taught within the Army, which drew them in closer. Military bronies out there, salute to you, Semper Fili. I know a few wonderful military bronies, wonderful people, and that's that other thing, too, about bucking the trend of what people expect from us. We're so much more than that idea I had about 7 years ago about what a brony was. And now here I am wanting to share with the world everything. So I got about 17 minutes to go. As I said, I reached out in social media and asked for your stories, because this is a celebration of us, of you, of the fandom, of all fans of this show. And I got some responses, and I'm going to try and get through as many of them as I can here. People sent me emails, and I'm going to read through as many of these stories as I can here, because this is my favorite part. This is what touches me. Generally, when we get to do this live, people come up on stage. Doesn't work that well online, so I got people to share them with me, and they had the chance to read it out. So first story here I'm going to share is from Grayscale LJH. Shout out to you. So they said, my story is pretty brief and to the point, but I thought I would submit it anyway. My Little Pony and the fandom has changed my life for the better in so many ways. It was an absolute joy to watch the cartoon over the years, seeing fun, relatable characters on their adventures and growing up in front of our eyes. The stories that were told were always a thrill to watch and the fun lessons to learn. And because of the success of the cartoon, an awesome community was born. Over the years, I have made so many friends, met many of them at conventions that have always been incredibly fun to attend. The memories I have made over the years are the most positive ever in my life that I will never forget, and I certainly look forward to having more of them in the future. Thank you for submitting that. And if I can actually get my keyboard to work, here we go. Another story we got from Taylor, who some of you might know as an incredible Glam Glam fan, also known as Kyle Bush 51 fan too. I've interacted with you, and you're awesome, and thank you for sharing your story with us. So I'm just gonna get into it. 2016 was pretty much a year I wanted to erase out of my memory for a lot of reasons. I had a part-time job at an amusement park that didn't pay well, and I worked with a lot of rude people that bullied me out of it. Several weeks later, my grandpa was diagnosed with stage 2 cancer in his kidneys, and it completely left me and my family absolutely heartbroken. If that wasn't enough, while I was walking home from school, I got beat up by 4 other students telling me, autistic freaks like you are a waste in this world, and you will never have any friends because you are stupid and weak. It absolutely destroyed any confidence I had in me, and I basically didn't want to approach anyone, fearing I was going to get beat up again. At the time, I was stressed, exhausted, frustrated, and had nervous breakdowns a few times a week. Some nights I didn't even sleep thinking about what was going to happen next, and honestly had nothing going for me since most of my friends I made in high school were gone and had nobody I could go to ask for advice or just talk to. My life was just being torn left to right, and I couldn't take it anymore. Weeks went by, and then one day an old friend of mine was in town visiting and I needed to talk to. So we met up at a restaurant, and the first words out of my mouth were, "You have no idea what I've been through this year. I'm honestly at a point that I just want to disappear and forget any of this is happening." My friend looks at me and says, "Listen, I know exactly what you're going through, but I believe I can help you out." At the time, I'm thinking he's going to tell me to see a doctor, which, duh, I've already done, but instead says, "There's this show called My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, and it has gotten me to a better life." Now, granted, I had heard about it and seen bits and pieces on YouTube through collabs and thought nothing of it. I don't think it's going to help, but I guess I'll try anything at this point. So I returned home and DVR'd roughly 5 episodes for the next day. I get up in the morning with my coffee and sat down to see if my friend was right. The first episode that played was Buckball season, and right away it caught my attention, which rarely happens when I watch a show for the first time. Coincidentally, the next episode was the very first episode from the series, and I was immediately blown away by the storyline and how well-rounded the characters were. This actually isn't as bad as I thought. Maybe my friend was right. After watching all 5 episodes I recorded, I felt something strange in my body that I hadn't felt in a while. It was a soothing, comforting, and positive feeling that told me everything is going to turn around for you. And by God, it did. I wanted to know more about the show and connect with others that shared the same interest of Pony. By September 2016, I had officially proclaimed myself as a fan of the show, and it got me into a much better state of mind and a more positive outlook on life. Since then, my life went from being in the dumps to giving me new life and hope again. It was sad to see the show come to a close, but honestly, if it wasn't for Lauren Faust and everyone at DHX and Hasbro for creating something that not only got me out of a rough patch, but saving my life as well. Having now attended 7 cons so far and have made a much bigger circle of friends than ever before, it's safe to say I'm a much better person, and this fandom is a wonderful thing. Thank you so much for that. And I'm giving you an air hug because social distancing, but when I see you next and we're allowed to actually be within 6 feet, I'm giving you a giant hug, man. We have more. These get me every time. You guys are awesome, and honestly, thank you for anyone who shared, because sometimes it's hard to get this out. So story 3 comes from Ivan Mendoza, and I believe I've interacted with you on Twitter. So, since I was a little boy, I liked to watch a series of Walt Disney, Cartoon Network, Discovery Kids, etc., and I was very happy to see them over time. When I attended schools, I didn't know how to understand or solve some problems or something that people did and kept talking about. My grandmother punished me for some problems I had at school just because I didn't pay much attention to my teachers. And my mother took me in therapy in a couple of years, having the success that improves my behavior, but every day is the same. From the first year, I had many very difficult tasks to complete, and I was busy since the afternoon while my cousins watched My Little Pony. Princess Promenade, the movie that received positive reviews, that was what led me to the future. As in the following year, since I graduated from my first year and returned to my grandfather's house, I saw my grandmother in a wheelchair and ill. She was suffering from respiratory failure, and it completely left me and my family absolutely heartbroken and sad. If that was not enough, while registering for high school, I had better conditions, but suffered bullying with my classmates and my friend who was my friend before. Nobody defended me more than my cousin. My teachers blamed me for something that I didn't even do wrong. Upon returning to my grandfather's house, my grandmother felt even worse. She was already in a stage leading to death, and they didn't succeed in saving her. But afterwards, I had really weird visions in my head, and I can't avoid the death of a loved one that I love so much. So I had to face things of life of what is and something that I can't change. Honestly, I was at a point where I just wanted to disappear and forget everything I've suffered. It happened, but not entirely. Since 2012, I was afraid that the world was ending and suffering that will all die as it was in that 2012 movie, but I realized that this was never true. Since 2013, my brother and I saw Transformers animated on YouTube that we enjoyed a lot, and also Transformers Prime. Both shows were best in a lot of categories, but they have disappeared. Somehow my brother saw a miracle that was going to change my life, which I already did. A show he was watching called My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, and that led us to a better life. Of course, I didn't know that many people made fan arts, parodies, videos with ponies on all social networks, pieces on YouTube through collaborations and all that, and none of that. But the next morning we watched the first episode. The first episode that was playing that day was Dragon Shy. And the following weeks immediately caused us tension, which rarely happens first time that my brother showed me. It was this incredible thing that had happened in life. Not only My Little Pony, but Equestria Girls too. Though we didn't know that there was a human version of the ponies. Coincidentally, the episodes of the second and third season were the first in this, I think the viewings was first in the series, and we were immediately impressed by the story, how well-rounded the characters were with many songs. Actually, this is not as bad as I thought, believing someone would make fun of us, but no. It's a constant theme. We're all afraid of this, but it's there. After seeing the episode and the characters, we felt something strange in our bodies that I had not felt in a while, and such a strong emotion that I had never felt before. It's kind of shocking and a comforting experience. I wanted to know more about the program, the artists, and everything they do. I wanted to be like them, and I checked on social networks that they shared the same interests. Since then, my life has gone from being in the hole to giving me new life and hope to me a better person someday. This is the reason I had to meet my friends from college, just as Twilight Sparkle predicted that friendship is everywhere. My Little Pony Friendship is Magic is the most amazing thing that's ever happened to me. I wanted to attend some conventions with everyone, but I couldn't do it, and I tried to attend one this year, but sadly was canceled due to COVID. But someday I will do it along with my family, and it's time that I travel out. I want to kindly and honestly thank everyone at DHX and Hasbro for creating something that not only got me out of a rough patch, but brought me inspiration and hope to be something special for some future time. Thank you again for sharing your story. I think I can get one more in here before we're done. I got this one from Brian Heck. Shout out to you. As the final episodes have come to a close and 9 seasons completed, I can only imagine how much the show has impacted everyone as a whole. There are some lessons, some memories, and friendships that have affected everyone to help grow and prosper. With the pandemic that's been going on for the past few months, it's truly reminded me of a lesson from My Little Pony that helped me in changing my life. The lessons of keeping hope strong within your heart. I learned this lesson back in 2017, a year that really took its toll from certain events going on in my life. Starting around April of that same year, my dad had been sick at the time and had trouble breathing and moving around. My mom, sister, myself, and even my dad all thought it was nothing. But as the months went by, he slowly but steadily began to grow to feeling worse over time. As we took him to the hospital, we found out that he was diagnosed with welder lungs, a lung disease that's caused by inhalation of iron dust particles, especially with welders. My dad was a welder by trade, but he never really wore a mask over his mouth to prevent the inhalation of any iron dust while welding. As tests had gone by, it later turned to stage 3 and then stage 4 of lung cancer. It was shocking. And didn't want to believe it when I first heard about it. My dad looked fine on the outside, but inside he was sick. At first I tried to stay neutral about it, just to deny the fact that my dad was unwell. Slowly seeing him in the hospital, losing his hair, being hooked up to machines, the cold, harsh reality became very present in my eyes. In June, he was well enough to go home for a visit for a while, provided he was on an air tank to give him the right amount of oxygen to breathe. However, he was brought back to the hospital a month later due to him slowly deteriorating. My mom, sister, and I tried everything, but there was nothing more we could do. Coming to a difficult and painful family decision, we decided it was for the best to let my dad go. My father had passed away on August 2nd of 2017, and I was devastated. I never wanted to lose anyone that was important to me in my life. My dad would always act like a goofball around his friends and family while trying to get a good laugh and or smile from others. Whenever someone was going through a difficult time, he would always bust their chops to brighten up their day. At the same time, to let them know to laugh and smile even in the worst of times, all the while letting them know that things will get better and that everything will be okay. To me, he was sort of like the Pinkie Pie or even the cheese sandwich of the family. I remember that BronyCon 2017 was a week after my dad had passed away. I was really looking forward to going, but after I lost my dad, I felt like going didn't really matter. I thought going would be degrading to my father's memory. However, there was one thing that prompted me to go. In his last words and request to his family, he wanted me to take care of my mom in the house while he was gone. He also told me that he wanted me to go and have the most fun that I could ever have. I felt hesitant as I wasn't sure if it was the right thing to do, but I soon agreed. Making a promise of my own, I promised my dad that I would win a video game tournament in his honor. Now, my father wasn't that big of a fan when it came to video games. However, I felt that it was something that only I could do, as video games were something that I liked. As the day came and I arrived at BronyCon, I was trying to stay strong, but I felt nervous. As I waited for the tournaments to begin, I made my way into the vendor hall to see if there was anything to buy. I soon came across a vendor that was selling dog tags, pocket watches, etc., and it was there I saw a Starlight Glimmer dog tag that had caught my eye. I don't know why, but it felt like the dog tag was calling out to me for some strange reason. Without a second thought, I bought the dog tag and proceeded to place it around my neck. As time continued to pass, I soon made my way to the designated rooms that would hold both the games and video game tournaments. The only tournament I had signed up for was Naruto Shippuden, Ultimate Ninja Storm 4, Road to Boruto. Gosh, that is quite a title. It was the one game that I had made sure to practice for the upcoming tournament and to keep a hold of my promise. As I began to take my seat after being called up to start, I placed a hand over my dog tag and held it close to my heart. I remember saying, "Please guide me and please show me the way." As I began to play, it felt as if there were two individuals watching over me. One of them was my father, who was watching over from me from up in heaven, and the other was Starlight Glimmer, who it felt like she was sitting next to me and guiding me through my matches. In the end, I managed to win the whole tournament and get a free pass to the next year's convention. Even though it was nice to be able to go back to the following year, the prize didn't really matter to me. I never really cared about the prize or the glory. The only thing that mattered to me was that I was able to keep my promise to my late father. Throughout the rest of the convention, I felt like my dad and Starlight were right there with me. To this day, I still have the dog tag I got from the convention and have kept it with me ever since. I've learned many lessons while watching episodes of Friendship is Magic. Some lessons have stuck to me as I could relate to one thing or another. However, the most important lesson that I've learned from watching My Little Pony is that hope can easily be taken away, while it can just as easily be given. That even though hope can be gone, it is not lost forever. I also learned that some friendships really can come from the most unexpected places. Along with valuing and cherishing the things that we have in our lives now, I know that to most that Starlight Glimmer is simply a cartoon character. However, she's just as real to me that I'd go so far to call and consider her a true and endearing friend. In a way, it's kind of ironic. I remember back in BABSCon of 2017, I was watching the Season 7 premiere with so many other bronies and fans in an auditorium. I remember getting a Starlight plush and had that same plush with me when we watched the premiere. After watching All Bottled Up, I felt that I could easily relate to that episode. I looked to my plush and wondered if there was some sort of connection to me and Starlight. Now I know that she would be the one that brought back the light of hope that I had thought I had lost. And in conclusion, as we go through this year in troubling times, life will continue to be tough. However, just like what I've learned and how My Little Pony has helped my life, as well as the lives of others, I know that we'll be able to get through this as a team, as a fandom, as friends, and as a family, to keep the light of hope strong for a better tomorrow and a bright and better future. Okay, I was tearing up through most of them. Thank you guys so much for those stories. I'm giving air hugs to every single one of you. Everyone watching, everyone in this fandom. If you ever want to talk about this stuff, you can always reach out to me. God, I can't even. I think we've just reached time too, which is probably perfect. That being said, I'm sorry. I'm a little perplexed. That's our show. I'm Forward Progress. This is Nova Rose. We do the Keeping Friendship Magic project. In about an hour, we will be doing Keeping Friendship Magic. We're Not Flawless. And please join us. We're going to talk about how we're not all perfect and we can always improve, and how we can do that through pony examples and beyond. Visit us on Twitter, on Facebook. I also have a Patreon now. Patreon.com/KFM. If you want to donate, we have the Keeping Friendship Magic podcast, which we have some big news coming for that soon. So definitely check us out. Otherwise, I want to thank you all, and remember to keep friendship magic out there. And I hope to see more of you soon. And much love to all of you. And